Hello gamers, and welcome to another edition of Tonight on Mage Hammer's Game Table, where tonight I am excited and proud to introduce my newest RPG design, Daring and Dangers, a rules-light pulp adventure role-playing game by me, Mage Hammer. So, cover art by me. Trying to keep it DIY. Yep. Anyway, so I'm going to kind of introduce you to the system, and we're going to make a character. And that's what this video is going to be about. Then in my next video, I'm going to do a session 0 leading into my next campaign. I'm going to be running a campaign of this solo on my channel, of course. That's a lot of what I do here on this channel. So, looking forward to that too. I'm pretty excited. And of course, eventually I'll be going back to some of my other stuff, but you know how things flow here on the game table. Got to keep it fresh for myself and also for you, the viewers. So this is Daring and Dangers. As you saw, if you've been following my channel at all, you saw in my last video, I gave you a presentation of all of the pulp games I have in my collection. And I love it so much that I needed to create my own, and especially since Delves and Dangers, I think, is the system I always wanted to design and finally have designed it. Daring and Dangers runs on that same engine, only for pulp stories. So I'm not necessarily going to do this is available as of this video's release up on itch.io, and you can download as a pay what you want, free, or throw some scratch at the channel to help support my channel, and so I can keep bringing you things like this. This is Welcome to Daring and Dangers, a role-playing game of pulp action. The pulps are all about action and weirdness and daring heroes and heinous villains. This game emulates those heart-pounding, two-fisted tales of exploration and adventure. Now, I do make a point of saying that I don't have any kind of mechanism, I guess, in this game to that lets you create your own adventures. But as you could see from the video that I did about all of the pulp games in my collection, there are plenty out there already, and I just felt like that was territory I didn't want to retread. What I needed from this design and what I needed from this game is pretty much right here is a fast, fun, and easy gaming experience. That's what all of my designs do, because that's where I'm at in my gaming journey. I'm just not into massive amounts of crunch, but I'm also not into too minimum of crunch. So I think I wouldn't say this is even medium. It's a minimalist game, really. Rules light for sure. It leaves a lot up to the danger director to decide how they want to run their game, which has always been something that I felt was very important in role-playing games, even from their very inception back in '74. Anyway, so it uses the same mechanic as my Delves and Dangers fantasy game. Roll pool of dice, 3+ is a success, unmodified 6s explode, and you can get more successes. So we're going to go into character creation, but one major change or addition to the engine are daring dice. Those of you that have watched my basic fantasy solo run-throughs know that I use DM Scotty's luck dice. Well, I've adapted that for the most part to my pulp game here, and I call them daring dice. Each character begins each game session with 3 daring dice, which can be used in the following ways. After an attribute or attack roll, any number of daring dice may be rolled, and any successes are added to the roll, and these rolls can explode, because they're essentially just adding dice to an attribute roll or an attack roll, so it works within the parameters of how that mechanic works in the game. It can also be used to reduce damage. So after attack roll's been made and you've applied it to their defense, which in this case, in this game for the most part is agility resistance, which I'll also be talking about here soon, you can roll dice to reduce that damage, much like the Scotty's luck dice. And then also, if your character hits with an attack roll, you can roll a daring dice or more and add damage to that roll to help make that a really massive hit on the person that you are hitting. Kind of, I guess, to a certain extent, what harming stones do from Delves and Dangers. And then, so when you're doing these for results, and I have it in capitals, those don't explode. Much like the healing stones and the harming stones in Delves and Dangers don't explode when you roll them for their purpose. Those are just, the exploding dice are for attribute and attack rolls and doing things. I also am adopting DM Scotty's position that Players should not share their daring dice with any other players. Their daring should be theirs alone, is my philosophy. Because I feel that Danger Directors should be very generous with giving out daring dice, because it adds the extra level of pulp heroics to the system. And so they're going to have plenty of their own. They won't need to share them. However, if a Danger Director wants them to be able to share them, of course, by all means, do so. It's your game. Then here, the Danger Director may award daring dice whenever she feels a player deserves it. Some suggestions are completely... If a character completely fails to roll any successes, or maybe they just missed, maybe they rolled some successes but didn't get over the agility resistance, the Danger Director can throw a daring dice at that character. That's very much like with DM Scotty's, only his is based on D20 systems, that if you miss at all, you get a luck dice. But here, I got successes mixed in, whatever. So yes, so it matches my system. If a character does something outside of the game, and you think, oh, that was great, that added to this, they can pass it off, or any other reason that the Danger Director sees fit, you can give them out. You can give them out whenever you want. And I know this is a meta currency, I believe we call it in the RPG design, but I think it fits for pulp. I think you have to have something that adds extra to the level of heroics. And I purposely don't use luck dice in Delves and Dangers, because I wanted Delves and Dangers to actually be dangerous. So this, I want to be more daring than dangerous. So that was my philosophy going forward. All right, so the professions are, now, I thought long and hard about what to include in the core rules of this for the pulp, and I think I've covered most of my bases. And we're going to go and see, and I guess you'll let me know. Plus, if I find that there is a profession that needs to be added, of course I will add it later. But I think I'm covering most of the bases. I purposely left magic out of the rules, and I know magic was a certain part of the pulps. I don't know if it was necessarily the most popular, but I feel if people really, really want to have magic, they can play a fantasy game. At the same time, I think it would be very easy to port over the magic system from Delves and Dangers right into this, if you really, really want to add magic to it. And I think that is the way to go. So I left magic out, but it's easily added in. So the first one is an explorer. They're very good at survival. They're good at searching ruins, searching areas, guides for people, and I pretty much base this on Indiana Jones, and I'm going to talk about that here in a minute, because Indiana Jones, and they have survival instinct. Explorer may reroll any one failed dice once per attribute, resistance, or attack roll. Indiana Jones was extremely charmed as his adventures went on, and I feel like he was more of an explorer than a scholar, though he is both, and we're going to get into that in a moment. So, weapon proficiency, pistol, machete, knife, and rifle. Rifle, in case you want to play kind of a hunter explorer. I got the rifle in there, and I made the resistance proficiency agility. Not strength, not mind. I went with agility. Detective. You have to have detective and pulps. It just, 100%. I mean, I could do with no magic, but you have to have a detective. So they're good at investigation and searching things. And I made them hard boiled. I gave them extra resistance. I gave them a strength resistance. I felt that fit nicely. And they're good with their pistols and their fists, of course. Two-fisted action. That's what the pulps are all about. And I made the resistance proficiency a mind, because technically a detective is mostly a mind person. However, I also gave a nod to the strength and made them hard boiled. An inventor, you got to have gadgets in a pulp story. So Weird Science is what I'm calling it. Great movie from the 80s, kind of borrowed that. You can call it whatever you want, though. They have inventions, invention points, and they have an engineering skill that they can use. And they are proficient in any invention that they invent, and they are also with the wrench and hammer, since they spend so much time creating their gadgets with those kind of tools. And I gave their proficiency mind, because, an inventor is basically a scientist. Scholar. Now, you have to have these professors. You have to have professors. Now, I know Indiana Jones was a professor, but I felt he was more of an explorer than a scholar, though he is both. But I'm doing this scholar is kind of like based on the Pulp Cthulhu kind of professors, those that kind of need to be there to figure out all the crazy things that the world has thrown at them, like the occult or even just history or archaeology. I mean, you could easily make a Indiana Jones build with the scholar profession and rather than the explorer profession. I'm going to explain how here in a few minutes with another one of the innovations I added to Daring and Dangers from that's different from my Delves and Dangers. Soldier, of course, you have to have the military is big. I'm basing this game in the 1930s. You can put it in the 20s. You can put it in modern society. You could do pretty much any time era, but I'm pretty much going to primarily play in the 30s. And soldiers coming off of World War One. There's about a conflict about to erupt all throughout Europe and into Asia, of course, the World War II. At the cusp of 33, that's when things started rolling that direction, if you know your history. And the vigilante. I had to have a vigilante. Doesn't have to be a masked vigilante, but can be, right? You can have, like, you could have the Shadow, which doesn't really wear a mask, but is mysterious. You could have the Spider, who sometimes, well, his face transformed. The Spider's complicated, but or like Green Hornet was masked, you know. I didn't want to necessarily bleed over into superheroes, but I definitely, the pulp heroes have vigilantes, and that vigilante can take whatever form they are. So they're streetwise, they're good with stealth and investigation roles, they're street fighters, they're good with light, medium weapons, so they get an additional bonus to those things. And so they're proficient in pistol and all light and medium melee weapons, and I gave their resistance proficiency as agility, and the soldier with strength, of course. And the soldier gets extra stamina per level, so that's pretty good. And so languages, I added them to Delves and Dangers, same thing. Each character may know a number of languages equal to her mine plus her native tongue. So, okay. Proficiency bonus still exists in this game, much like it does in Delves and Dangers, works the same thing. And then another innovation I added for this more modern style of genre is secondary skills. So basically what secondary skills are is, you know, you want to have a scholar, but she wanted to become a pilot. So she got training in being a pilot. It isn't her main focus, but it definitely is something that she can do. So if a player wants her character to have a skill, the Danger Director determines what it's called and whether it fits into the campaign world. A character may have as many secondary skills as the Danger Director would allow, but I suggest a good guideline would be a number of secondary skills equal to the character's mind attribute. Put a limit on it if you want, but if you don't, you want your characters have unlimited skills, you go for it as a Danger Director. So basically, secondary skills are you get a, let's say pilot, you choose pilot, and you get to make, let's say, agility rolls. The Danger Director decides that piloting is mostly about agility and hand-eye coordination and so forth. So they would add their proficiency bonus if they made a piloting roll. That means they are proficient. They are skilled in that skill. Okay. I do make sure the skill should not be additional dice to a profession ability. You wouldn't like give like a scholar an extra bonus to knowledge. That's already baked into their profession. So this is, I make a point to say that this should be something completely outside of their profession. And they can, like, you could choose, let's say you have a scholar who wants to be really, really great at light and melee weapons. You could make them proficient in those weapons where normally they would not be, that kind of thing. So that's what that's for. I think it adds a lot of flexibility to character creation without being too much, keeping it within the rules light realm of what I like to see in my games. So attribute rolls work pretty much exactly as they do in Delves and Dangers. Traps, added a couple different ones like swinging scythe trap or whatever, but that's pretty much from Delves and Dangers. The difficulty levels are still the same. Resistances are the same, except, and then combat. Now, combat, I added a couple things into Daring and Dangers that I don't have in Delves and Dangers, and feel free to add them in if you want. Well, the one you probably shouldn't, but this one you might. Range. With all modern weapons and guns and so forth, I decided to add range, but I only have 2 range categories, close and far. Close is within 5 feet, and far is 6 feet to 120 feet. And the main reason I did this was to give pistols a chance to make sense. So melee weapons can only be used at close range. Pistols can be used at close and far range. Now, I know there are reach weapons. I know there are spears, and some characters in Pulp would use a spear. If the Danger Director would like the spear to have extra reach, go for it. I am not outside of, that's fine. But I figured still, to keep it kind of uniform and rules light, I just went with melee weapons being at close range. But of course, Danger Directors can change and modify whatever they want. Pistols can be used at close and far range, and all other range weapons suffer a -D4 penalty at close range. Because most of those weapons have longer barrels. It's tougher to draw a bead on somebody, it's possible to shoot them. Yeah, so I thought a -4D penalty was working out in playtesting and so forth. So they're at close range and for ranges beyond far. So, you know, they have their little window where they don't have any bonus or they don't have any penalty at all. But after far, they have a -4D penalty. And so that's what ranges I felt it needed to be put in because of the prevalence of firearms, especially the pistol. Let me know what you think about that. It seems to work out pretty well in playtesting. Okay, the attack pools are pretty much the same, melee attack, range attack. Now, the big change, I struggled with how to work defense in this game, because armor is so prevalent in fantasy games. The armor mechanic works beautifully for Delves and Dangers. However, not everybody's running around in armor in Pulp. Okay, maybe it's an inventor here, some kind of ancient society that you run into, or knights or Romans or something like that. So I came up with the idea that the agility resistance becomes the defense. So all combat, melee and ranged, are tested against the character's agility resistance. And if they're wearing armor, the armor is on top of that. So I had to modify some of the, I had to modify stamina. I had to modify stamina because they're a little more protected from attacks with their agility resistance in most cases than they are with armor in fantasy. So I think I got a nice medium going on for stamina, and only stamina of the foes, not necessarily stamina of the characters. So you'll see how it plays out once I get into my, my solo session, or you start playing yourself. You'll see how that works out. I think it worked out. Then I did away with character death, because in Pulps, rarely does the main character die. So it's possible they could fall off a cliff and never be seen again. Of course, Sherlock Holmes fell off Reichenbach Falls and survived, So that's just the way it goes. So in Pulps, it had to reflect that. So I have knocked out. So when their stamina reaches 0, they're knocked out. The round after being reduced to 0, the player character makes a strength roll versus DL2. If the strength roll is successful, now this is very much like the Delves and Dangers death save, but this is not a death save. If it's successful, the character regains consciousness with 1d3 stamina. If the roll fails, the player just remains knocked out until revived. Then I added the addition of breathers. Now, obviously, people are not running around with healing stones in this game, and healing stones allow Delves and Dangers to, the characters to continue to be able to play longer than they would be without healing. And I didn't want to have spellcasters of divine nature in Delves and Dangers, just because if you want to cast spells, I want it to be because you're a wizard. Anyway, that was my game design thought for Delves and Dangers. My game design thought here was characters in Pulps take breathers, right? They have some downtime. They get out of a combat and they can, take a break. Or the villain escapes and they are able to rest it up. Then the famous scene in Indiana Jones where Raiders of the Lost Ark, where he and Marion are in the ship, Katanga's ship, and he's got like bandages and he's like, everything hurts. She's trying to tend his wounds and everything. And then, next scene, he's swimming across over to a submarine. So, that's Pulp right there, right? There's got to be some sense of danger, but at the same time, they're Pulp heroes, so they are a lot more survivable than, let's say, some of the old school fantasy characters that I wanted to present in Delves and Dangers. So I introduced the breather, and so a breather is 15 minutes long, and they can regain 1d6 plus level stamina. Because even in Delves and Dangers, stamina for me has been a mixture of how well you're able to, your fitness when you're in combat, dodging all those wounds. Sometimes it's wounds, sometimes it's injuries, sometimes you get a dagger stuck in you, that kind of thing. Sometimes you get a slash from a sword, but other times it's just also the bobbing and weaving in combat that stamina represents all of that. So the breather, I think, fits in well. And of course, in Pulp, they have some bandages, or they take a shirt and they wrap it around their wound, and boom, they're good to go forward. I mean, there are, of course, times when the story calls for it that they have to be laid up in a hospital bed for a while. And I'm sure if Danger directors want to work that in, they can. And if they figure, oh my gosh, that was such a devastating blow, they're going to need to recover from that. That's fine. Whatever serves the story best. I think that's what Pulp is mostly about, is the story. So I have this knocked out mechanic. That doesn't mean people can't die. It just means that it's, you know, highly unlikely that they're going to die. Unless somebody is able to give a coup de grace. I mean, there may be no escaping that kind of thing. So that's up to the danger directors, but I felt that the knocked out mechanic had to be in place because it's pulp and it raises the level of the pulp heroism. And of course, characters regain all stamina after a night's rest because stamina is what everything that I just explained. All right, another mechanic that I added to this game, or modified, I guess, in Dells and Dangers, cover made sense that it would be a -3D attack on the people hiding, especially because over time, a lot of attacks can get up pretty high with magic and so forth and skills and so forth. But I needed something because of firearms. I needed to, and I came up with this idea during playtesting. I was like, aha. So instead of, because agility resistance, most of the time when people are under cover, they're actually hiding. They're not really moving around. So I felt that the cover needed to be an armor bonus, basically, with no agility resistance. So it takes the place of the agility resistance because they're not running around jumping behind it, you know, while they're behind cover. They may jump for cover, but they don't jump while they're in cover. So the cover itself becomes the defense of the character. I thought that worked pretty well, and I felt really good in my gut. So if they're partially under cover, and even this can be obscuring too, they could be behind a bush, I don't care. They have armor 3. And if they're mostly covered, over half covered, it's armor 6. Like if they're in a vehicle fleeing and somebody's shooting a Tommy gun at them, the car is the one that's taking all that, you know, taking the bullets for them, and it isn't necessarily them dodging in the car. So it worked. It ended up working really well in playtesting. I was very, very happy with it. If they're completely behind cover and their opponent is using something that they feel would actually affect them, by all means, they can go. If they can't see them, but they're making some attack, it's the cover that's taking it. You know, if they're in a, like I said, they're in a car and they're getting shot at by Tommy guns, you know, so it's the car taking all the damage. All right, so that is something new. Also, firing with 2 pistols. Of course, you have to have 2 pistoled vigilantes. So if they do, they get to make 2 attack rolls with each weapon, but those are at -2D. As one action. Those are -2 dice each, so that worked out pretty well. And then, of course, I have some modern weapons in the weapons table. I also added in about fists and feet. So, you know, 2-fisted action is really a thing in the pulps, and fists give +0D weapon bonus, because obviously somebody has brass knuckles or a club or something like that's going to do more damage than somebody who doesn't. But it opens up, you know, not everybody's proficient with their fists. Not everybody's been taught how to fight properly with their fists. So you don't get to add your proficiency to it unless your profession says that you do. Then automatic fire weapons, of course. You have submachine guns, a Tommy gun. You got to have the Tommy gun in pulp. Mausers for Nazi soldiers and so forth and so on. So I played around with this probably the most to get it to where I've wanted it to feel for, you know, submachine guns. And then if the heavy machine guns, they end up going against some soldiers, and they have a heavy machine gun. So basically what I did was I got rid of, it was too hard. It was too much. It was too much to have like their proficiency, their class bonus, the weapons dice got way out of hand, especially because I wanted to have multiple attacks. So what I came up with, and I finally landed on, was if you fire with a submachine gun, you can fire 2 bursts with 1 action, and each of those bursts is 6 dice each. That's it. It's not modified. It's modified by range, and it's modified. If you're not proficient in the weapon, you have you have -1D to that roll. Not saying that the proficiency bonus is baked into the 60, but that you're not necessarily proficient with it. You don't know how to handle it as well. So it's -1D. That seemed to work pretty well without nerfing the guns too much. So 2 bursts of 6 dice each. They can be aimed at 1 person. So that'd be 12 dice for 1 attack, which is quite a bit. Or they can be split between 2 people who are close, you know, stream spreading across the stream. It can be more than 2 people if the danger director so chooses, but then your dice get really watered down at that point, and, you know. So I think it's worked pretty well to at least up to 2 other people attacking them, or just throwing all 12 dice at 1 person. It worked out pretty well in playtesting, and I'm confident enough with the release of the game that that's how it's going to work. Energy weapons, got to have lightning guns, right? In Pulp. So, or, you know, death rays and stuff like that. Energy weapons add +3 dice to whatever the weapon type is. So if you got a pistol has 2. It's a medium weapon. It does medium damage, I guess. So it's 2D. And then if it's an energy pistol, it's 5D total. So, you know, energy weapons should have a little extra punch to them. And most of the time those are balanced out with, we're keeping track of the ammo much better. Speaking of ammo, let me do grenades first. So grenades, they are you add +4, you use your agility and proficiency if you're proficient with it, and you add 4 dice to it. They don't have any other weapon type bonus besides that. And more than likely it's going to hit where you want it to. However, if 3 rolls are on that attack roll, the grenade doesn't land where you want it to. That's what I ended up with that mechanic. So it'll bound randomly, and the danger director will decide where that randomness goes. And the blast covers a 20-foot area. Any creature in area effect suffers damage equal to successes that exceed the affected creature's agility resistance. So grenades are going against your agility resistance. So it's kind of like the fireball of Pulp gaming. Ammo. Obviously one of the Pulp heroic things is you don't necessarily keep track of ammo too closely. So inventions, you have to track their ammo because of the power of the inventions. So I have non-invention ammo can be tracked however the danger director wants. You can ignore it. You know, you can have a 6 gun, actually shoot 12 shots. It's up to you. You're the danger director, whatever your campaign you want it to be. Or you can come up with some kind of system to have the player track it. I give some suggestions that I have seen in other game systems, like a depletion mechanic. After every combat, roll a D8. If the roll, or it would be, you would have to get a D8, or you can make it a D6 if you want to make it simple, since this is a D6 system. They roll a 1. The next time depletion roll is rolled, it would be a D6, etc., all the way down. Or you can start with D6 and then, yeah. So you would have to bring another dice into the game if you want to use a depletion mechanic. That's up to you. The next time it's depletion roll, it would be, yeah. Or simply hand wave and decide when a gun runs out of ammo. I'll say, you know what? I think that was 6 shots, so guess what? Your gun's out. You're going to have to reload. That's an action reload, that kind of thing. That's probably what I'm going to land on, but I thought I'd throw the depletion mechanic out there, though it introduces different kinds of dice. You know, and you can look up depletion mechanic online from the games that I've borrowed that from, but it's not necessarily canon. And not many of the rules in here are anyway. They're all guidelines, so it's up to you. Whatever you would like to do with that. All right, but that's how I'm handling ammo. All right, inventions. So basically, I'm not necessarily going to go through every invention. I want you to explore that for yourself, but you can see here on this first page, I played around with the invention points and the charges. And the charges are basically ammo for these weapons, and they're energy weapons and so forth in most cases, not always. I have a few things that aren't weapons in here, of course, but I'm encouraging danger directors to come up with their own inventions and their players to come up with their own inventions, and then you guys discuss how you want it to go. And then based on, I think I've given, you know, a decent amount of examples in here of inventions that you can create your own or use what I have here. They definitely need to be recharged, and so that's where the engineering skill of profession ability for inventors comes in handy. They can try to rig their invention to suck more, or to not suck, to push more charges out of their weapon than if they're out in the field. Otherwise they can go back to their workshops or wherever they do their work, and they'll be able to, you know, recharge it, no problem, no roll necessary, takes about an hour or so. Or they can kind of jury rig it in the field, and that's when they have to make a roll, and the DL to restore charges in as fast as equal to half the invention point cost. So, you know, and they're carrying their tools with them all the time. So it takes about 15 minutes to rig those charges, and they can never really rig more than half because of their limited resources they have in the field. So, you know, that's the guidelines, and different situations will come up in adventures, and you can go from there. But that is, that's inventions. I don't want to go too much into that. Then the faux files, I have dinosaurs. I have humans of all kinds of different parts. And, you know, like I have ancient Roman soldiers, but if you want to have like medieval knights, it kind of would apply to the same thing if you have some kind of time travel pulp episode or something that you want to put into your game. Neanderthals, primitive tribes people, I went very general. Soldiers, you know, soldiers could be Japanese soldiers, could be Nazi soldiers, could be American soldiers, whatever. So soldier is soldier, and I have leaders in here. Now, I do give leaders I call them dastardly dice. So they kind of get an idea of daring dice, but they're dastardly dice. So leaders get 2 and master foes get 3. So they can also use those in combat against the heroes. And then I have monsters, animals, creatures, and other foes, like living statues. I call them automaton statues. Big cats, crocodiles, you know, giant snakes, giant spiders, giant scorpions, all kinds of different things that you can add in there. Minotaurs, a minotaur, a mummy. Of course, you got a mummy and Pulp. I have a whole collection of Pulp from the Pyramids, it's called. Check it out on Kindle. It's pretty good. I've read about half of them. They're usually mummy stories. Sharks, gotta have sharks. Skeletons, troglodytes, but you're not like Delves and Dangers troglodytes. They're you know, just people who live underground, like more like Morlocks from the Time Machine. Vicious ape, zombies, and that's my faux files. And then I included 3 sample characters, and one of them we're going to be creating together. That's Ohio Smith. She is a explorer, archaeologist. Jungle Lord, so you can see how that would work. And also Rocket Agent. So we're going to create Ohio Smith, but you'll have these sample characters in the core rules that you can look at and a blank character sheet. So that's the rules. That's the design decisions I made, and I think it works really well. So if you have any comment on that, go ahead and put it in the comments below. And now let's make Ohio Smith. All right. I don't know if I necessarily need to write this down or just walk you through what I did. I don't know. We'll see where I'm at. Let's see what the time is on this video. Yeah, not too bad. All right. So I wanted to create Indiana Jones, but we're calling her Ohio Smith. And I went with the Explorer build because I felt that more reflected what Indiana Jones was about than the scholarly part of him. Okay. So we named her Ohio Smith. She is a professor at, I don't know, Miskatonic University? Sure. She is an explorer. And so she has strength and agility, but really the main key of her is her mind, because she is a scholar. Oh, that's the other thing. Everybody in here is human, so I use the human rules that I have in Delves and Dangers. You get to add 1 to an attribute. So you could have attributes of 3-3-2 or 4-2-2. And she is going with 4-2-2 because since she's a scholar, I really wanted to highlight that aspect of her, that she's very, very intelligent. And then agility and strength are at 2, average. So we're starting at level 1. This is early in the career. So all characters get their stamina score is their strength plus 12, so that's 14. So agility resistance. So agility resistance for explorers is boosted by 1. So it's their agility plus 1, so the agility resistance is 3. Her mind resistance is 4. Oops. Strength resistance is not stamina. And this, of course, is 2. So 2, 3, 4. So strength resistance 2, agility resistance 3, and mind resistance 4. Stamina is 14. And then starts with 3 daring dice, and that's per session. You can choose to ignore that or put the dice down across the character sheet if you're playing that way. All characters, human characters, move up to 30 feet. All right, so then I have a place for the profession abilities. So she gets her awareness, because explorers have to be constantly vigilant and aware of what's going on around them to be able to survive out in the wilds and in ruins. So she gets a total of 6 dice with that, because she gets +1 to survival and perception rolls. That should be, and I'll fix that. And perception rolls at first level and every level evenly divisible by 3. And so when you add in, I figured awareness goes with the mind, so that's 4, plus proficiency is 5, plus profession ability is 6. So she is very aware of what's going on, looking for traps, looking for secret doors, or looking to make sure there's no enemies that are following, and so forth and so on. So that's awareness. Survival instinct, of course, you make a note of it on your character sheet so you don't forget about it. Because, like I said, I feel that Indiana Jones is very charmed. So they can re-roll 1 failed die per roll, much like the Harefoot in Delves and Dangers. Then, so weapon proficiencies, pistol, right? And I like to put the dice that they roll, I'd like to do it ahead of time. So agility for 2, pistol is +2, plus proficiency is 5D. So they roll 5 dice when she fires with her pistol. Gave her a machete. And that is based on agility. So she doesn't get she gets her proficiency modifier. And the machete is a light weapon, so that's where the 4D comes in. And then a whip. Now, I just have a whip doing damage currently, but of course, the character can try to do tricks with it or kind of wrap somebody up or knock something out of their hand. That's up to the Danger Director. I would suggest giving the target of, let's say you want to knock a pistol out of somebody's hand with the whip. They have to make an attack roll, and if they get any kind of successes over the agility resistance of the target, have that target make a DL2 or DL3 agility roll to avoid that, agility resistance to avoid that. If not, then knock out their hand. And then a knife. Every explorer has to have a knife. So that's their weapon proficiencies, and I put the number of dice they would roll with that weapon next to it just to expedite the process. She got a satchel, she gets a whip, Webley revolver, travel notebook, leather coat, fedora, passport, money. All the stuff that you would need. You can add something called Explorer's Pack, and it has like rope and all that stuff in it if you'd like. Indiana Jones rarely had rope. He used his whip a lot. So anyway, just saying, if your Ohio Smith is different than that. So then secondary skills, of course. Now, since a scholar, so archaeology, right? And so basically you take your mind and add proficiency to it. So she rolls 5D when she's trying to figure out stuff about ancient ruins, ancient peoples, all those kind of things that you see Indiana Jones do. Also, researcher, that's not built into the explorer part, but it is built into somebody who is very scholarly. So when they go to research something and they need to use a library, or they need to go and look something up, recall something that they may have learned at some point, you can use research. Now, I'm giving one secondary skill for each mind point. So riding, we've seen Ohio Smith many times ride a horse. So that would be agility plus proficiency. And then whip proficiency, got to have that in there so they get that extra die on their whip. So they roll attacks and stunt rolls. The stunt rolls I already explained to you. That's how I would work that if and then I also put the 4D here as well as down here under their proficiencies. Then languages. Wow, my blank character sheet is missing a few things I need to add before I put this up for itch.io. All right. So languages, a 1 for each mind plus English. So I could probably give her yet another one. And feel free to keep it open in case in play the character's like, I speak Aramaic, and like, oh yes you do, and then add it to the list, and then they speak Aramaic from then on, or you just add it in straight out of the gate. Up to you. That's up to the Danger Director how they want to run things. No inventions. There's no invention points. And that's pretty much it. I think I created Ohio Smith, Scholar Explorer here, without really making them a scholar. I mean, they did make him a scholar secondary skills, but I mean the profession. So that's how that works. So that's pretty much how easy it is to create a character. If I think you could figure it out. And then like jungle lore, to show you real quick. I added secondary skills, brutal fighter and nature knowledge, plant and weather knowledge rolls. Now that plant nature knowledge means he knows what vines he can swing on. So, and then you can make agility rolls to see how that rolls. But I made the jungle lore an explorer as well. Because in the Tarzan books, he pretty much was raised, to explore the jungle with his tribe, and then he went out and did much exploring and knew how to survive in the wild. And then of course he's good with a knife. Now he goes on when he returns back to civilization, and then as he goes up in levels and so forth, the Danger Director could have him gain new proficiencies. That's up to the Danger Director and how they want to run things, but currently that's how it would be. And then rocket agent, somebody flying with a rocket backpack, got to have that in Pulp, right? I made them an inventor, of course. They invented their own pack, or at least be able to, if they didn't invent it themselves, be able to know how it works and repair it in the field if they need to. And I made them a pilot so that they can make really good rolls with their rocket pack. And pugilist, they're good with their fists. And I also made them proficient in pistol, in addition to being proficient with hammers, wrenches, and so forth. So, but she's carrying a hammer. So there you go. Engineering rolls, you know, it's invention point 6. You'll see that in the profession when you look at it. And that's only enough at first level to buy a rocket pack. So they don't have any other inventions currently, and they can invent some more things as they go up in levels. So that is Daring and Dangers. So if you have any questions or any comments, please leave them in the comments below. I'm pretty excited for you guys to see the solo session. I'm going to go, I'm excited to play it. I haven't played it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. I played a lot of games myself, play testing, and I had a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to sharing that fun with you guys in new adventures going forward. And that's that. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think, and see you in the next one. Okay. Till next time, keep on rolling dice and playing games. Mage Hammer out.